Hi everyone and welcome to the Golden Voice Academy. Today we're going to cover how to write a hit song, something that's very important being a recording artist. Now, I want to ask you to really go all in, just like I ask you every single week. I want you to put away all distractions, put away your phone, put it in airplane mode, step away from anything that's distracting. If you're out in public, go home. Watch this on a computer. You deserve it. You deserve to take the time to really soak this information in, And I just want to encourage you to get excited, get your energy up. If you're home alone or wherever you're at, I just want you to kind of shake out your body, jump, move around, get loose, and get really excited, because what it does is it just embeds this into your nervous system so that you can remember this when you're sitting down trying to write a song. So today I'm going to cover how to write a hit song, the multitasking myth, how to create flow state so you can tap into that special brand of magic, how to get started writing lyrics, because there are many different ways to do that, the format of a hit song, and I'm going to explain the most common rhyme structures to make your song sound great, how to model successful writers, and finally, the procrastination cure, because the most important part of songwriting is that you sit down and write. This is a quote I really love. It's by Chris Schwartz, who's the CEO and founder of Rough House Records, and he said that the single most driving factor for any act is hit songs. So regardless if it's rap, rock, R&B, etc., the hit song is still crucial in driving any project. Therefore, he feels it's important that the artist devotes the majority of their time to perfecting their songwriting craft. So if you talk to any A&R guy at any record label or executive, they say the same thing. It's all about the song. If you have a hit song, they can even work with you on everything else. If they don't like your image, they can change that. But the songs are what they're really trying to go for. So today's module, it's a really fun topic because there's so much creativity involved for artists. And a good song is like your baby. So when it's good, it's really, really good. And when someone doesn't see how great your baby is, your feelings are going to be hurt, because it seems like the most natural thing in the world for an artist to write a song. It can be really challenging because of that, for you to humble yourself enough to learn about how to get better at making that baby. So it takes a lot of self-awareness, you guys. It takes humility, it takes motivation, and the love of your craft so much that you're willing to do whatever it takes to be the best version of yourself. And this is how some artists sell 7 million records in an era of digital streaming where people don't even buy records. The truth is, it's really hard to write a hit, and very few people ever do it. At any given time, there's probably 20 writers and producers making about 90% of the hits you hear on the charts. And you're probably wondering why that is. Well, the answer is that those writers figured out the formula. They figured out what people want to hear, and they use that formula over and over again to keep writing hits. We've already established that if you want to be successful, you need to know every single aspect of your business, right? You need to know it inside and out. And that means you need to know the formula for a hit song like it's your job, because it is your job. So your job, it's to write hit songs if you want the world to hear them. And I'm not saying all your songs have to be formulaic. You can write as creative as you want. But I promise you that if you follow a formula, you're going to be a better writer in the end, and you'll have it when you need to. Like if someone asks you to write a song for a movie and you get that opportunity for a big movie, you need to be able to write in the hit format so that they accept your song and you can make that cash. It's kind of like when you talk to A-list actors and they do one movie for the box office and one for themselves. It's like one for them, one for me, and it'll be some indie movie, and you're like, why is Ryan Gosling doing that crazy movie? Well, it's because he wants to be creative and he's an actor. So he doesn't want to just do things for the box office. So what it is, just like being a writer, is you write songs for the charts and then you write your songs for yourself. It's going to help you be a better and better writer when you learn the formula of what works on radio, what works for hit songs, and what's indie. You need to know the difference so that you can make a choice about what you want to write at any given songwriting session. So I think about kombucha as an example, which is huge now. And it's kind of like the indie artist compared to Coke or Pepsi. But those kombucha brands, they still learned every single thing there is to know about Coke and Pepsi's marketing plan. And that's how they grew from this little indie idea into a billion-dollar industry. You guys, it's now over $1 billion for kombucha. So if your plan is to be the kombucha of music, then you need to learn what's already working and make it even better than the original. You, my friend, should absolutely 100% know how to write a hip hop song. I don't care if you're R&B, if you're rap, if you're a trap artist, if you're country, you need to know how to write a hip hop song, and that's how you're going to make your money so that you can continue to do all the creative stuff you want to do. There are many ways to write a song from scratch, but first I'm going to tell you how to get yourself to sit down and actually write. This is the biggest challenge artists face. Multitasking. Multitasking is engaging in more than one activity at the same time or serially switching back and forth from one activity to another. So when you sit down to write, are you completely focused, or are you flipping through your phone? Are you answering calls? You probably think like I did that you can do that mid-session and not have it affect your writing. But science has proven that this just isn't true because your brain can't do two things at once. So what you're doing by keeping the phone on and a bunch of tabs open on your computer, or even having the TV in the background, it's called task switching. And it's one of the most inefficient and stressful things that you can do. So research has shown that it takes a minimum of 15 minutes to get your brain back in the groove of whatever you were doing once you've been interrupted. And the reason most of you aren't getting 100 songs written per year is distraction. And this is something that can be easily fixed. To put it in perspective of how many songs you should be writing, I'm going to talk about how Prince did it. I used to work with Prince's manager, and rumor had it that Prince would write and produce a song every single day. So he ended up with about 300 songs a year because there's some days where he's too busy. But most of the songs would be thrown out, and he would just pick the best out of the 300 and make it to the album. This is Prince we're talking about. This is someone who was nominated for 38 Grammys. 38 Grammys, you guys, and he's sold 100 million records worldwide. So take that strategy, and you should be writing every single day. There's absolutely no reason not to do that. If you want to be a great songwriter, you need to write. So seriously consider writing, making it part of your schedule every day, just like the writers who are getting paid to do it. And every songwriter I know who makes over $1 million a year, they write every day. But they didn't start out making that kind of money. They did the work and then the money came, okay? This applies to every single kind of writing. So I just finished a book on the music industry, and I wrote every day for 6 months. Even if it was for 30 minutes, I sat down and I did it. And my friends who are New York Times best-selling authors, they continue to write every single day, even when their book is finished. And they just start working on the next one. It's a habit that's required to be the best at any craft. It's just like playing basketball or football. If you took a month off, you'd be so out of shape and you'd have to hustle to get that muscle memory back. So this is why athletes, they have active rest days. They'll often, on their day off, they'll still do yoga, or they'll go for a hike or a walk, or they'll swim. And it's just to keep their body moving, because moving creates energy, and moving keeps your muscles in shape. Just like writing every day makes you continue to be a good writer. So you take the same concept as an athlete and you set aside every single day, even if it's just for 30 minutes, and you write. Because oftentimes once you sit down, you'll be onto a song and you'll want to do it for longer. The question I'm going to ask you is, do you want your music played for hundreds of people, or for thousands of people, or for millions of people? Everyone has a different goal, so whatever your goal is, that's totally fine. But you should set a goal and then understand what it takes to get there. So if you want to sell millions of records or have millions of streams, then your goal should be to completely eliminate distractions when you're writing and get yourself into flow state. Flow state is where the magic happens. Creating flow state is an art. So artists tend to be whimsical, creative, great at creating something out of nothing. They make a story that can move you. And the artist believes, that baby angel feathers will fall from the sky, softly hitting your skin. And in that aha moment, inspiration will strike. And I used to think that way too. I thought that this was some magical thing with songwriting. But this is some BS that we learned from watching movies made by Hollywood, where everything's a fantasy. The Hollywood people writing about musicians aren't even musicians. So songwriting is just like any other creative job that you'd be getting paid to do. You do your job whether you feel like it or not. As a creative person, okay, you're a creative person, it is your job to know how to create inspiration on demand. Sometimes you're walking down the street when you have this great song idea and you have to stop what you're doing and get the song idea out, or you're driving and something hits you, so you pull over. Hopefully you're not recording it while you're driving. You pull over and you write it down, and you feel like it's just being channeled from the universe. You're like, oh, I didn't even write that song, it just came to me. And sometimes you write those songs in 20 minutes flat, which is insane. It's amazing. And you have no idea. You have no idea where the lyrics came from. And it just feels magical to you. And that spiritual experience, that's called flow. Now, I'm sure you've heard of flow in mainstream media. What flow is it's a highly focused mental state that was recognized and named by the psychologist. His name's Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And this guy, he wrote 290 papers on that topic, and he wrote countless books, including the one that you've probably heard of called Flow, which is on Amazon. And he defined flow as this: being completely involved in an activity for its own sake. The ego falls away, time flies, and every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous one. It's like playing jazz. Your whole being is involved, and you use your skills to the utmost. This is the state you guys want to be in when you're writing these songs. So the excuse writers tell themselves of why they don't write unless they're inspired is because they say they're not in flow. But you can create that inspiration on demand if you learn how to get yourself there. The high of flow is one of the reasons people chase being a star athlete or a great artist, because it is absolutely phenomenal when it happens and it feels amazing. While we're talking about motivation, there's this book I love by Steven Pressfield that I have all my clients read, and it's called The War of Art, where he tells you how to write great songs. This whole book basically says to be a professional versus an amateur, you have to push yourself through resistance. That's it. You just have to do it even when you don't feel like doing it. And I couldn't agree more with him. He said, resistance knows that the amateur composer will never write his symphony because he's overly invested in success and over terrified of his failure. The amateur takes it so seriously, it paralyzes him. This is so true, you guys. I mean, how many times have you been paralyzed by this perfectionism of what you want your song to write, or what you want your song to be about? You just end up saying, oh, forget it, and then you end up taking days off when really you should be writing. Even if it's crap songs, you should be writing them every single day because you're a writer. So now that you have this information I'm giving you, if you still wait around for flow to happen, then you're an amateur. And that's fine. Music's a hobby for you, that is okay. But if you want to do this professionally, as in be able to support yourself, support your family, have money that you make from music, not your day job, then let's go. I'm going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to teach you the scientific way to get into flow. And then you're going to feel creative once you know how to do it. So what all pro athletes and world-renowned musicians have in common is that they have figured that process out. If you talk to a pro athlete, they will pump themselves up so hard before a game, and they have these rituals that get them in the zone, and that's called flow. So the world gets blurry sometimes around them, like if someone's playing basketball and they can't even hear the fans booing them or cheering for them in the stands because they're so in flow, and all that matters is the game, and it's this spiritual experience. They say they feel high, and I'm sure you felt that way sometimes after performing or writing a song. You just feel like nothing feels as great as that in the world. And a musician on tour even does it before they perform on stage. So if you're backstage with like an A-list musician or artist, they're backstage like in a huddle, they pray, they jump, they chant, they get into flow, whatever it takes. It doesn't matter if they have a bad day. It doesn't matter if their spouse just dumped them or their boyfriend said it's over. They have to get on stage and they have to be 100% in the game. So they have to get into flow. And if you want to be at that level in the game, then you need to teach yourself how to get into flow. You know, it's like when you're on the stage and the whole world just stops. That's how you create flow, so that you can write songs from this place of this magic, the reason we all do it. So there are steps to get into flow. This is proven. The psychologist, that I told you about, he wrote it down, he studied it. This is it, you guys. So number one, you have to have clear goals about what you want to do. So you have to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to write a song. And number two, you need to be completely in the moment. So no distractions, nothing around you to distract you. then you need to find the activity rewarding. So it's something that you like doing, or you're not going to get into flow. The self-consciousness that you normally feel, that just sort of goes to the side. So you're not sitting there analyzing yourself. So if you're trying to get in flow and you find yourself saying, oh, this sucks, and you throw it away, and you're crumpling up papers, stop, take a few deep breaths and get yourself back in flow, because you can't be judging yourself while you're doing it. It just doesn't work. It's a different part of the brain. Also, what happens when you're in flow is that time sort of speeds up or it slows down. It's really fascinating. Have you ever been in a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, where did the time go? That's flow. It could even happen when you're hanging out with friends. It's really beautiful. So to be in flow, you get instant feedback about your performance. So you look at the song and you instantly know whether you like it or not. You also have to be skilled enough to do the task, which means you need to learn how to write, which I'm going to teach you in this course. Even if you already know how to write, we're going to tighten it up and we're going to polish it. You also have to have no worry about failure. So you can't be, again, judging yourself that you're going to fail. It doesn't matter. This is creativity. Yes, you're probably going to fail on the first 300 songs you write, and then 301, bam, you have a hit. That's how it works with anything. That's how you learn to walk. That's how you learn to drive. Do you remember when you got your driver's license, how bad of a driver you were, like almost hitting parked cars? It's the same thing, but you didn't give up. You learned to drive because you have to get places. Well, you're an artist. You have to learn to write and you have to learn to be good at it. Also, when you're in flow, like I said before, distractions are excluded from consciousness, okay? So if there is something going on around you, you don't even see it. But if you want to create that, just turn off the distractions around you. So I encourage you guys to push yourself in flow every single day. Next, we're going to do a writing assignment that I want you to do to get yourself in flow. And I want a minimum of 1 hour every day. I want you to write something. So first, I want you to turn off all the notifications on your computer and phone, including social media apps. So you're going to do this today. You're going to go in all your social media apps, all your computer, and turn off those things that are like ding, because they're there to distract you, and you need to be able to get in flow like a professional. So this will help you, it'll increase your productivity and it'll reduce distraction so that we can clear up your brain to get in that creative mode every single day. Now I want you to put your phone, after you do that, put it in airplane mode and step away from your computer. It's way better for your creativity to write with the pen and paper. Something about the connection that's been proven, your hand to the paper, all the muscles that it requires, it triggers this amazing thing in your brain. So I also want you to set a timer, okay, in this homework. You're going to set the timer for 5 minutes and you're going to breathe deep. So there's a very simple breathing exercise. You can double all the numbers, but the concept is in for 4, hold for 6, out for 12. So you're going to do that for 5 minutes. I want you to count it out. And if you do that, you're already in a meditative state to be able to write to your best ability. This is going to prime you. You're going to be relaxed. It's going to turn off your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, and it's going to put you into the sympathetic, which is rest and digest. And from here, you can access creativity and flow much more easily. Okay, next, you're going to set a timer for 55 minutes. I know that sounds like a lot, but it'll go by like that if you're in flow, if you do the meditation first. Now you're going to write whatever comes to mind. Don't edit. I just want you to free flow. And I don't care if you sit there with a pen and paper and come up with nothing for 55 minutes. The only rule is you're not allowed to pick up your phone or your computer, and you're just going to stay there, and you're going to train your brain that when you sit down in this space, this is when flow happens. So even on those days where you write garbage, or you feel like it's garbage, or you're writing nothing, your brain is going to be so wired to be creative that you're going to be an even better songwriter. Even if you have 6 days of writing nothing and you have 1 day of writing a song, that was worth it to get that one song. There's this Harvard professor that I was reading about, and her name's Teresa Amabile, and she discovered this really beautiful thing about flow. She was researching the after effects on the brain and what it does to you for days later. And her research showed that people who experience flow state regularly report higher levels of productivity and creativity and happiness for up to 3 days after experiencing flow state. So this proves that creativity begets creativity. So the more you try to get into flow, you're now having a great day for 3 days after. So this is why you feel so good after you write a song that you really love. You're actually wiring your brain to become a great writer. How to write lyrics. I'm going to teach you the most common and most effective ways to get these lyrics done and to get on your path to writing hit songs. There's a ton of ways to do this, okay? So we're going to learn how to write a cappella, writing with an instrument, writing to a previously produced beat that you get, or collaborating with the producer while you're writing, and finally simply writing the words first like a poem and then adding the music later. A cappella writing is when you use your voice only with no instrumentation. So if I were to stand here right now and just start singing and making up words, that would be a cappella writing. What I want you to do first with any of these writing styles is I want you to record as you go along. This is massively important. I cannot stress to you enough how hard it is when you thought of something great and you lose it. It really, really sucks. So download a voice memo app if you don't have one. If you have the iPhone, it's on there already. I'm sure all the phones have something like that. And then label your work. So if you write just a verse, record it, verse 1. Then you can delete it when you re-record verse 1 and you change the lyrics. Verse 2, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge. You just want it all labeled with a song title or at least the date, right? So for today, you could call it song 1. Song 1 verse, song 1 pre-chorus. That way if you change a song and start to write something else, it's super organized, and organization is going to save your butt when you're not sure where your work went. I'm sure you've all had times where you thought you could remember what you were singing, and then you spent like 30 minutes repeating it, and you're like, this song is the bomb, and then you lost it, right? Like you got one phone call, somebody turned on the TV, a song started playing, and you lost it. Well, that's because the brain just cannot focus on what you learned, and a new melody will get in there and mess with you. So make sure you record everything to save your music. It's worth it, you guys. Every time you write, record it. I mean, I've had artists lose so many potential hits because they forgot to record it. I mean, I don't care if you think of a song in the middle of the night. Don't just write it. I mean, don't just like go back to sleep and think, oh, I'll remember it in the morning. This is so good. Get up and write it, you guys. Record it on your phone. Don't just write it. Get up and leave the room if you're sleeping next to somebody and hum it into that voice recorder, because you will not remember it. The brain is not wired that way. So I want you to at least capture the melody and capture the song. So to write a cappella, you can generally start by just freestyling. So whatever melody and lyrics come to your mind, you start writing it, you start recording it, and then you tweak it until you like it, until the lyrics make sense. And once you have the verse and the pre-chorus and the chorus, then you repeat the melody for the second half of the song, and basically your song's done. All you need is a bridge. So once you get through verse 1, your optional pre-chorus, and chorus, your song's done. So that's how important the melody is to your verse and your chorus. And pre-chorus is always optional, but I really like pre-chorus because it lets the audience know that the chorus is coming. So if you follow this method, then you're going to have your a cappella song, and you can always add music to it later, right? And because you created the lyrics and the melody yourself, then you're the sole creator. You can hire a producer to produce it. You can hire a guitar player to come over. And if you do a work for hire, then you own everything. You created it. Now, if you write a song to a produced beat, then they have equal rights to the copyright. So the other thing you can do is you can write with an instrument. A lot of you play the piano and play the guitar. So whatever instrument you have, you just write and you sing along to it. And the chords you're playing determine which lyrics and what melody. They don't determine the lyrics. The chords that you're playing determine the melody, because there's only so many melodies you can sing to so many chords. What it means is you're strumming the chords, like you're strumming them, and you're singing the melody and words at the same time. For those of you who don't know, you're just singing along, strumming, just like by a campfire. And some people, they just hum along as they're playing it too. And then they come up with lyrics later. That's a good way. If you've got this like melody you just want to save, just hum it. You don't have to have words. Melody is just important as the word. It just depends on what creativity that you're feeling in the moment. Now, if you don't play and you're doing this with a friend who plays, or you're hiring somebody off Craigslist, God forbid, who plays, it becomes a co-write. You're getting their creative input, even if you're the one writing all the lyrics, because your melody, again, it's going to change based on whatever chords they play. And this can be a good thing, or it can be a bad thing because it can completely change your sound. For example, let's say that you're a pop singer and you're writing with an acoustic folk / flamenco style player. Then your song is going to come out in a totally different style than if you were, just writing it yourself and you were determining the chords. And that can all be changed in production. It's not like you're stuck with it, but it's definitely going to alter the overall sound because it's a collaboration now. It's their feedback. And if you're trying to get an album written, a whole album, I recommend collaborating with somebody who plays specifically in your genre, unless you're looking for the creativity of their different genre. But be aware that it's going to affect your genre. And the fans, they love consistency, so you don't really want to have like a country and then a pop and then an R&B all on one record when you're first starting out. You want to have a theme so that people know where to put you, because people aren't that creative in being able to figure out where you go in the world. Once that song's done, you can produce it yourself. You can learn how to produce yourself. It's not that hard to at least get like a rough production style, or you can hire a producer to wrap it up for you and give you something beautiful. Another way to write is to write on top of a produced beat. That's like when you buy a track. And this is a really fun and it's really easy way to write to. And the cool thing is you can find inexpensive tracks online that you can license, or you can just buy them straight out from the producer. It's a really good way to get your foot in the door as an artist when you just don't have a budget and you don't have $5,000 per song to hire, live musicians and a producer with a name and all of that. The thing is, when you're buying a track, there's only so many melodies that you can put to that track to make it make sense. So you have to keep in mind as well that you might hear that track somewhere else if you're licensing it. So there might be 30 people that bought that license that all wrote to that track, and that's okay. That it doesn't matter. It's not like most of those tracks are going to get famous. I mean, like with Old Town Road with Lil Nas, like he bought a track that was licensed, and then he bought it, and he's the only one that made it big with it. But I highly recommend buying it. In the end, he bought it so that no one else can use it, because you don't want your stuff out there. I mean, it doesn't really matter. There are people all the time that take like a Rihanna track and then they write new words over the top. That's actually one way that I didn't include in this, and I'm going to tell you about. You can take a song that's already out there, write different lyrics over it, and then produce it completely different style. And as long as your melody is completely different, you're not infringing on anyone's copyright. And it's kind of a cool way to just get creative and get your mind going, because a lot of the songs that have the same melody, kind of like, I'll give you an example, the same chords to Forever Young, I wanna be forever young. It's the same chords as Katy Perry's That's What You Get for Waking Up in Vegas, get up and shake your glitter off your coat now. So there's like 50 songs that have that same chord progression. So if you want to just get creative, grab an instrumental online that you like and see if you can write a totally different melody, totally different lyrics, and then you can always produce it later in a completely different style. It's really fun to do. So with all of this being said about writing to a beat, if you can't afford to buy the track, let's say it's like $500 and you're like, I got 10, then just license it and don't worry about other people having your track. It does not matter. Just get it done. Don't let money be an excuse or a reason why you can't be who you want to be. This is who you are meant to be. You're a writer, you're an artist. This is your destiny. Don't let anything get in the way. And then later, if you decide to put it on your album, you can always buy them out, and then have the track all to yourself. Now, keep in mind as well that the producer, if you buy a track that he already made or she already made, they're entitled to a writing credit because they created the main melody that inspired your lyrical melody, unless you buy him out, which is possible. And there's ethical things there that people would argue with, but some producers don't care. They just want the cash. And if they charge you more, they're like, go ahead. I don't need to be a writer on it. It's like ghostwriters. They're work for hires. Did you know that there's ghostwriters on tracks that aren't even the original writers, and they just get paid a sum and their name's never on it? For writers who are, making 60 grand a year, they're like, yeah, you want to pay me 50 for that? Sure. Or whatever it is that they pay. Probably not that high. But still, It's not unethical. It's actually considered normal in the business, and that's one of the inside things that people don't really know. A great example of an artist who just bought a beat online is when Lil Nas X, he bought that beat from Young Kayo, and it was $30, and he put a beat, he put his rap to it, his song to it, and it went viral and it became huge. And Young Kayo, he didn't even know. He was just selling beats to artists. Smaller artists would buy or license it for really cheap, and he couldn't really see which artists were buying it. It would just show that it was purchased in the store, and he would get $30 to his account. Just a notification. So for producers, that can be really rough, because if your song blows up and you only get paid what somebody agreed to pay you, then you're going to be like pissed when it goes viral. But for artists, it's really great, and the right thing to do is to take care of that producer and give him the money that he's due. And if you end up using his original production, you're even in a position where you can give him points, which is great. Like, that guy made you famous. Or you can be ruthless and argue with them, and it's up to you. It's totally up to you. But it takes the problem of not being able to pay for music to get produced, and it just solves it. So don't feel like you have to spend a ton of money on production, on hiring some producer for $2,000 to $5,000. Some producers even charge indie artists $10,000. You don't have to do that, because if you're willing to do the research, you can find that one gem of a song and you can write to it for really cheap. It's really just up to you of how much work you're willing to put in to find a beat that you love. So you might have to go through 100 beats for sale, like those beat for sale websites. You might have to go to 100 websites and listen to every single song until one strikes you as like, yes, this is my song. And then you write to it and you just pay for studio time. So an average engineer, they charge anywhere from like $25 an hour to, it can go way up, right, to like $200 an hour. But at a studio, if you walk into it, easily you can find an engineer for $25 an hour, and they can lay down your vocals and they can edit it for you if you're trying to do it on the cheap. But if you want a quality song, then you want to hire those more expensive producers and spend a few grand to get your song done, especially someone who's really good with vocals. That can make or break your song. But with that being said, don't let money scare you off. Just get it done. Just get your songs done. You deserve it, and you deserve to have your music out there. Even now, even if you're working 2 jobs, it doesn't matter. It can be done for little to no money, and Lil Nas X proved that. And I absolutely love that song. So don't let money be the thing that holds you back. This is your dream. And later, when you want to hire those high-end producers, work 2 jobs, save up. My friend Damon John, he worked at Red Lobster for 5 years while he was creating FUBU. 5 years. And he said, that 30 grand or whatever he was making at Red Lobster, it would have tanked his business to be able to, spend that money from the business on himself. And that dude's now worth $300 million. And he's all about the grind now. He wrote a book called The Grind, Rise and Grind. It's amazing. But he's all about work hard while you can and save your money and pay for stuff yourself versus getting investors and owing people money. It's a dark road to go down. But if you can pay for it yourself, you're in total control of everything. Either way, fight for your music. Fight to get it done. And it's the only way you're going to be taken seriously by the music industry is when you have records that people love. That means songs that people love. Without the songs, you're just saying you're an artist. And, you have to sing for them live. Another way to write, and this is my least favorite, but it works for people, and some people have done really well, is to write the words first. This is poetry style, meaning the words with no melody. In my opinion, this is the worst and the hardest way to write, because in the past, when I've tried to do that, or I've had artists trying to do that, then later you're trying to put a melody to it, and it can be challenging, the melody just doesn't flow. But for some people, it works out great. In my opinion, it never flows the way you want it. But if you have some really great lyric idea, then write it down, and don't be afraid because I'm saying it's hard. Write down that amazing lyric idea and just work with it. I mean, some people just write an entire poem and then add words to it. This method worked for Elton John. His lyricist, Bernie Taupin, he used to write all the lyrics, poem style, and Elton John would write the music, and that some of those songs are incredible. So it is possible to get it done. It's just really what style feels good to you. I find it a challenge for artists to try to write a melody after the lyrics. But if you have some great idea for lyrics, then write them down by all means. Like when you have that creative brain flowing, capture it. Either way, your goal is just to get the song done. Now, if you take the words alone, the melody alone, and the instrumental alone, and they are all magic, then you have a hit. Each one should stand on its own. So when you're done writing the song, right, take the words by themselves and make sure that they're hit words. Take the melody and just hum it and make sure that it's an earworm, right? Earworm is like when you just can't get it out of your head, you're laying in bed and it just is like on repeat. You want to make sure that your song is doing that for at least your ears and the people around you so that it has the potential to be a hit. And then you're going to take the instrumental alone and make sure it's amazing. All three of those pieces make up a song: words, melody, instrumental. They should all be hits. And when you put them together, that's how you get a hit song. Each one should stand on its own. The format of a hit song. I'm going to reference Meghan Trainor. She sold 11 million copies just for that one song, All About That Bass, that you guys remember. I'm all about that bass. So, 11 million on that. So she is definitely a songwriter that we should listen to. And she said, quote, "I can teach people the formula, how to do a pop song. Pop structure can be taught. Everything else is what you've got. The ones I can write now and in 60 years, they'll want to play it and they'll still want to jam to it as if it was brand new. That's a smash. That's the first rule, timeless. The hit that spreads around the world the quickest and the one that toddlers will dance to and older generations will dance to, that's when you win the most, when you get everybody." I love that quote, you guys, because she's right. You just want everyone to be able to jam along to your music if you're trying to get a hit song. The average song length of a Billboard Hot 100 charts has decreased by 20 seconds in the past 5 years. So the average song is now 3 minutes and 30 seconds. 6% of songs averaged 2 minutes and 30 seconds or less in 2018. And songs have been shortening because artists are making the same amount of money off streaming regardless of the song length. And so you get paid about 0.004 cents per stream. So it kind of makes sense to have shorter songs so the fans can listen to more of your music and you get paid for more streams. So if you're ever wondering why songs are so short now, that's why. And if you look at Kanye West, his 2016 album, which was The Life of Pablo, he had 8 tracks that were less than 3 minutes long, versus his album in 2010, which only had 2. So he realized that he wanted the streaming dollars, and so he made almost all of them under 3 minutes, which is really short, but you just click through them and you get to the next song. I've been teaching the 3 minute and 30-second format for so long, since before streaming, because if you look at the top hit songwriters, that's what they do. It works for radio, and there's just something about this formula that works where people don't get bored. And you can, of course, follow any style of writing and make a beautiful song. You can even make a 7-minute song. I get it. You just want to be creative and do your thing. But today we're learning how to write a hit song. And if you follow this format, you almost always end up at between 3 and 3:30. Song intros. The first thing you hear with a song is obviously the intro. And there was a research paper that came out recently from Ohio State University, and it found that intros dropped from more than 20 seconds in the mid-'80s now to 5 seconds. This is again because of streaming. People need to know right away whether they love your song or hate it, or they'll move on to the next song. So you're trying to capture their attention that quick. So have short song intros if you want to do it, for create a hit song. And if you think about your own attention span, if you're doubting this, think about yourself. When you're flipping through Instagram, do you even stop to read the caption? Like most of the time you don't, because your brain is so used to going quickly. And so unless the first 5 words hook you, you're on to the next. Same thing with your songs. So if a song is played for less than 30 seconds on Spotify, it doesn't count, just so you know, and you don't get paid for that hit. So you're trying to get them into that 30-second mark so that you can get your streaming money, which means short intro and move on to oh, they love your voice. Oh, they love what you're saying. That's the goal. Now I'm going to show you the format of a hit song. There are, of course, tons of other ways to do this, but today we're going to use the one that is a couple that are like the most common and commonly used on the charts because they work. So I want you to write this down. A song starts with the first verse, then the pre-chorus, which is optional, then the chorus, which needs to come in within 60 seconds, and then you go and repeat that, but with different lyrics. So you've got verse 2, the pre-chorus again, and the chorus again. Then you follow that up with a bridge, and then chorus out, which means usually the chorus goes twice. Both the verses, the verse 1 and verse 2, they have a similar melody. So it's very easy to start the second verse with the exact same melody, and then once you have the lyrics down, you can change it up. Or if you're just feeling it, you can go with the changes now, but it should be very similar. So you can change it using cadence, using timing, or using thirds above and harmonies that now become the lead. So you're a storyteller, and the verses are like chapters in the book. I want you to write that down. Verses are like chapters in a book. And I learned that years ago from Tupac's first manager, that if you can switch the order of the verses, then you're not being specific enough. It's too vague. So always, when you're done with the song, always try to switch the verses and see if it works. And if you can switch them, then you need to go do a rewrite because it needs to be chronological. It should be like verse 1, I met the girl. Verse 2, we broke up. So you couldn't reverse those. It wouldn't make sense that you broke up and then you met her. Okay, so there's an order to it. What you wouldn't also do, and this is something a lot of people do, is verse 1 is I love her so much, she's amazing. Then verse 2 is I love her so much and she's amazing in this other way. That doesn't work. You're just repeating yourself. It needs to be a story. You're taking people on a journey. One writer who I really, really respect and love is Sia. And she was writing for everyone in the industry before she made it. She had so many hit songs before she came out, and they basically begged her to have a record deal, which is why she was wearing this like wig covering her face, because she didn't want to be famous, but her songs were so good that the industry and the record labels were like, you have to put out a record. So I love her writing. She's got more number ones than I can count. And her method, you should probably write this down too, is from victim to victor. So it's kind of like, I was blind, I was in the dark, this terrible thing happened, but now I see, now I overcome. And if you need a song reference, just pull up Titanium. That's a really great one where she overcomes bullying or whatever it's really about. But it's, I'm bulletproof and I've got nothing to lose. So she's powerful in that song. And it's just a great example of from victim to victor. This is the classic hero's journey. There's a great book about it, and it's called Story Brand. I think the author is Donald Miller, but I'm not sure. But either way, if you look up on Amazon Story Brand, you can see how exactly to write the hero's journey story, and you can apply it to your songwriting for sure. The pre-chorus is always optional. Now, if you leave it out, you can get that song down to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But what the pre-chorus is it's a melody that's different from all the other sections. So it's different from the verse, different from the chorus, and it comes after, so it goes verse 1, pre-chorus, chorus. Okay, so it's sandwiched in between the verse and the chorus, and it sort of lets you know that the chorus is happening. Now, it's a different melody, it's different lyrics than everything else, but it also has the same lyrics. So pre-chorus 1 and pre-chorus 2 have the same melody and lyrics. I kind of think of it like an alternate chorus, but it's sort of a build-up that lets you know that the chorus is about to happen. It gets you really excited for the chorus. That's the point of it. Now, the chorus is sometimes called the hook. Okay, so if you've heard the term the hook, that's what it is. It's the chorus. Same thing. It's the big payoff and the main point of the song. It's what you would call the emotional heart of the song. It should have the same lyrics and melody every time each chorus, so that listeners can remember it and they can sing along. I mean, you're singing along in your car, you're excited for it. Maybe sometimes all you remember is the chorus because it's the best part of the song. And the title of your song is 90% of the time is going to be in the chorus. And that's so listeners know what to call it. Usually it's in the first line or the last line of the chorus. A bridge is a section of the song that's intended to provide contrast to the rest of the composition. it creates that tension before the final climax of the chorus at the end when it gets to repeat twice. It's sort of like builds up. It's kind of like that scene in the airport in those romance movies where she leaves and he's running to get her. And so he buys a plane ticket and goes through security just to get her. That's the climax when they find each other. But the bridge is the part, the whole scene leading up to that where he's running and he's driving in the taxi trying to get there. It's that tension before the chorus at the end. And the purpose of the bridge is to provide variety, because the song that switches just back and forth from verse to chorus, it can get a little boring and a little tiring. It's just more like predictable, and you don't want your song to be predictable. So it mixes things up and makes it a little more exciting. And another way to think of a bridge is it connects two sections of a song, kind of like a real bridge connects two places. So it's connecting the verse to the chorus. And I always tell my clients, I say, think of the verses as water, the chorus as waves, and the bridge as an actual bridge that goes over the water. Not like a tunnel that goes under the water. It's a bridge. It goes over the water. And the point is of it going over is a visual so that you can use, I can use my vocal gymnastics here. Or you can go up in pitch, go higher in key from the rest of the song. And this is where you can do an instrumental solo that's amazing. Or even you can rap, but you want to make it very different from the rest of the song. Finally, you can create like vocal layers to make it sound totally different. And some people do these amazing vocal layers. So now that you know the sections of a song, I'm going to cover rhyming structure, because how you rhyme is really important. You can use the same rhyming structure in both verses, or you can change it up. But either way, you need to know exactly what rhyme pattern you're using so that you're in control of the flow. The way I teach to do this is, if your lyrics are on a computer, is to use tools like bold and underline. Or if you're writing, you can just sort of like circle one and you can underline one, or you can use highlighters. It doesn't really matter. I recommend doing this on by hand. So you can circle the words that rhyme, the two word, every other line, and you can underline, and you're just keeping track of your rhyming structure. And the first rhyming pattern is very simple. And look, even if you guys know this, I still want you to go through this, because it's only going to make you better to understand this intellectually so that you can apply it creatively. The first rhyme pattern that you would learn, even in kindergarten, is A, B, A, B. In a 4-line verse, that's when lines 1 and 3 rhyme with each other, and 2 and 4 have a different rhyme scheme, okay? So the example would be, roses are red, violets are blue, I'm going to bed, and so should you. Do you see how the pairs that rhyme are labeled? So this is bold, and this is underlined. That just gives you a visual so that it makes it easier to see what you're doing, so that you can see the pattern. And so verse 1 and verse 2 have like the similar pattern. In the AABB pattern, lines 1 and 2 rhyme, and then 3 and 4 share a different rhyme. So roses are red, make me feel dread, violets are blue, make me love you. Then there's ABBA, and that's where lines 1 and 4 rhyme, and 2 and 3 share a different rhyme. Roses are red, violets are blue, if you only knew, flowers are dead. Okay, it doesn't matter what I'm saying here, I'm just teaching you structure. We're not trying to be Mozart right now. ABBB is another structure, and that's when line 1 is unique and lines 2, 3, and 4 share a different rhyme. Roses are red, violets are blue, if you only knew that I love you. XAXA. Now that's a little different, and people get confused about the X, but what the X is it just means that it doesn't rhyme with each other, okay? So lines 1 and 3, they don't rhyme, they don't matter, as long as lines 2 and 4 rhyme. So it goes, roses are red, violets are blue, I fell in love when I saw you. Still works. Do you notice how it works? Then there's AXXA or AAXA. So keep in mind, the X is a line that doesn't rhyme. It doesn't rhyme with anything else. So the A's match each other and lines 2 or 3 don't. So the first one is AXXA, and it goes, roses are red, violets are blue, I'm feeling dread, and I'm going to bed. That totally works still. Or AAXA, which is roses are red, that's what she said, violets are blue, I'm feeling dread. That one's not as flowy, but you get the point. Then finally there's AAAX, and that's where everything rhymes except the last line. And this is what you'll often hear people do. So roses are red, I'm feeling tread, let's go to bed and stop this ruse. You can use X anywhere you want and have a non-rhyming section, but be careful with that because rhyming is what makes a song catchy. Finally, you can actually mix and match. So this is the last one. You can mix and match the rhyme structures, and I'm going to give you one example so that you have an example. It's A, B, A, B, A, A, okay? And that's roses are red, violets are blue, I'm going to bed, and so should you. Let's drift away till it's a new day. Okay, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is A, B, A, B, A, A. Again, I'm going to let you hear it so you can see if it flows. Roses are red, violets are blue, I'm going to bed, and so should you. Let's drift away till it's a new day. Still works, but it's a totally different style. Now, if you notice, I used italics to pair the last two rhymes here, and I did that so it's a way for the writer to visually see what's going on, so you know it's A, B, B, and then I call it A again, but these don't match with these A's, okay? They're just another section. That's just what it's called, like from a technicality standpoint. So you can visually see what's happening, and it doesn't matter if you highlight or bold or whatever, but if you're trying to become a better writer, you need to know exactly what rhyme structure you're using, what rhymes are where. So this is something that's really cool, and a lot of you rappers are gonna know all about this, okay? And it's an internal rhyme. It's a rhyme within a line rhyme. And this is when two or more words that rhyme within the same line, like maybe I'll go with you, baby, I haven't seen you much lately. Okay, so if you look at it, maybe and baby are in the same line and it matches with lately. So maybe I'll go with you, baby, I haven't seen you much lately. It just has like a nice flow to it. Two or more words that rhyme occurring in between two separate lines are like this, okay? So I saw you, baby, with my guy. I thought that maybe you had lied. Okay, so you can see that baby and maybe rhyme and that guy and lied rhyme. However, this is not 4 lines. This is 2 lines within rhymes that occur between separate lines, and it kind of makes it flow. So if you listen again, I saw you, baby, with my guy. I thought that maybe you had lied. The end rhymes are the last word in the sentence that rhymes with the middle of the line, and that's another internal rhyme. Okay, so for example, I've seen you lately acting crazy in your ivory tower. I can't stand the way you faze me. It's like you have this power. So these aren't bolded here, but tower and power rhyme, crazy and faze me rhyme, and then there's an internal rhyme right here. And the internal rhyme that rhymes with the end rhyme. And they're really fun to play with, all of these internal rhymes, but song structure is determined by the end rhyme, the last word at the end of the sentence, which is known as the end rhyme. And that's what really matters. Syllable rhyming is like what you learn as a little kid. It's like blue, shoe, you, new, to. Those all rhyme. But then there's multisyllabic rhymes, which are the rhymes that contain 2 or more syllables, like nervous, surface, heard this. And like if you'll notice, heard this is actually 2 words, right? So it's not a multisyllable, but you could rhyme it with a multisyllable rhyme. Now, if you mix syllable rhyming, not every syllable has to rhyme with each other. And that's like, sweaty, spaghetti, forgetting. Those are all lyrics from an Eminem song, 8 Mile. Sweaty, spaghetti, forgetting. They're different amounts of syllables, but they just flow and it sounds beautiful. And then there's altered pronunciation rhyming. And that's where you pronounce something totally different to make it rhyme. And this is a huge one. So instead of singing maybe and baby at the end of a sentence, you would sing maybe, you could make the word baby rhyme in all these different ways. So like someday, you can say baby, 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 bye-bye, bye-bye. You can say it all these different ways and make it rhyme. So if you're like, I really want to put that word in there, don't be too thrown off by that it has to rhyme. Think about pronunciations without going too crazy. Okay, we are going to use a song example, and you guys should all have some sort of PDF or a digital file to be able to download this and look at as we follow along. And normally, I'd use a Max Martin song or something like that, but it's cost prohibitive to get the rights to a hit song to sell on an online course. So I'm going to use a couple of my songs that I wrote that we have the rights to. So I can show you a classic straightforward song example and then something a little more complicated. And this is using Max Martin and every hit writer's formula so that you get the drift for it, and then you can look up the songs that you love later and see that the format kind of coincides. So love it or hate it, here we go. This first song example is exactly 8 bars. So that leads us to 3 minutes and 4 seconds, which is what you're aiming for. You can obviously use different amounts of bars, like some songs have 4-bar pre-choruses, or some songs that are more R&B would have a 16-bar chorus, which would make them longer songs. But for this example, I want to show you what happens with a consistent format. This song is called Devil in Disguise, and it was written in 2010, and it's a total straightforward pop song. And the format, it still stands true today. It's the same thing that they're using on the radio. And we can start by the song title, okay? If you'll notice, I have written by right underneath the song title, and you've got the copyright symbol, which is created by making a parentheses, a little c, and a closed parentheses, and then you hit enter, and that makes the copyright symbol, and then you have your name next to it. You always want to do this under every song title so that it shows that you have copywritten it, and it would be saved on your computer before you have a chance to go to the copyright office. And if you look at the first verse, it's written in the ABAB format. It appears that lines 1 and 3 don't rhyme if you look at it off the bat, but with pronunciation you can make them rhyme. So I'm just going to play that for you so you can hear it. Ooh, 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 hey, yeah. He looked at me with that angel face. Before he told me lies, he made me feel like he was the best thing that happened to my life. Now on the pre-chorus, it's the same ABAB format, but it's a build-up to let you know that the chorus is coming. And by the way, verse 2 is going to be a very close melody to verse 1 and the same rhyming pattern. And pre-chorus 2 is going to be exactly the same as the first one. One day I found he had a dark side with Jekyll unbound. How could I be so blind? Okay, and now we're getting into the chorus. The pre-chorus was the same ABAB format, right? And it's a very simple rhyming structure, which is why I picked it. The whole song is in fact ABAB. And after the chorus, you have this little vamp, which is not always necessary. It was just kind of a creative thing. But at the time, we didn't have streaming when this was written. And so the song was too short, and it sort of lengthened the song, and it was a cool little vibe. But I want you to notice as well that the title of the song in the chorus is in the first line. So the first line is, I swear the boy's a devil in disguise, and that's the title, so that people can find it. And the title is almost always in the chorus in the first or the last line. So I'm just going to play you the chorus so you can see what happens. Pre-chorus built up to it. Okay, so in verse 2, the story continues just like a book or a movie would, and it furthers and develops more. He lit my whole world on fire, just so he could be the fine man. He lobotomized my life, shattered the pieces left. And then you've got pre-chorus 2, which is the same melody, the same rhyme structure, but I have changed the words here to not make it too repetitive. I changed my cell phone, I changed my email with all the And then we go into the bridge, so there's no vamp in the second chorus. The bridge is completely produced differently. It starts out A, B, A, B, and then gets combined with X, A, X, A as far as the rhyme pattern. Now we switched up here to create some kind of interest so it doesn't get too boring. And if you'll notice, the track sounds like almost like a different song here. And this is one way to do it. You can make it like a completely different song. It's almost like it's a build up to the chorus. The melody's different and it brings back into the chorus and then the beat drops.
Feel my blood boiling, see the evil in his eyes, can't stop my heart yearning, that boy's my kryptonite, I need the antidote, he's got me paralyzed, can I break free of this, will I go to hell tonight, I swear the boy's the devil in disguise, I should've listened when my friends warned, somebody told me hell has no fire, like a man scorned, I swear.
And so this is just going to keep going. The chorus is going to repeat just like a standard pop song. Now, the rhyme format, if you look at it, was all A, B, A, B, and except the bridge. So this is a very simple song. Now I'm going to show you a different song that has a little more complicated rhyme structure, and this song's called Better Off, and it was written with more of like a pop R&B feel, which allows for a longer chorus. It's still stuck to the 8-bar format, except it has a double chorus, which is 16 bars, and the song length is 3 minutes and 52 seconds, which is too long for radio and not ideal for streaming in the era that we're in now, because you want the listener to keep listening to your songs and get to the next track. However, with that being said, you also want to be creative, and if your song is long and that's the way you got to do it, then you just create a radio edit, which would land under 3:30, and you'd have the longer song on your album and your fans could listen to that. But it's much easier to just stick to the 8-bar format if you think you're writing for radio and for streaming, because you don't have to make a radio edit. And so this is a more complicated song, like I said. It's got a lot more money in the production, so it's got a lot of live instruments, and you can hear the difference in quality. And not that that matters all the time, because, you know, Lil Nas X made his $30 track, went viral and sold a ton of copies. So, but this is a little bit more instruments, that kind of thing. So I want you to notice that verse 1 and 2 have a totally different rhyme structure from each other, which is different than I've been saying all along, but it somehow works. The pre-choruses also have different structure to them and different lyrics from each other. So this song, same format as far as the written by and the title, and I'm just going to play it for you.
When I first met you, baby, I was so infatuated. You were such a man. It was Wonderland. You lured me with the no game. Wasn't sure if you liked me till you kissed my lips, and baby, that was it.
Okay, now this is an A-B format, that's how it starts out, and then it's going to change. The pre-chorus has an XXAA format, which means the first N words don't rhyme. And this only works because line 2 has an internal rhyme, which I have bolded here. So I want you to listen to that.
Suddenly you took me into Candyland. Darkness was our wrapping, tasty treats calling me. I was chasing you into the rabbit hole. Mirrors everywhere, but I can't find myself anymore.
So the chorus is AAXA because 3 of the 4 lines rhyme, and that works. But if you notice the second half of the chorus, it's the same thing. I'd also like to point out that there's a multisyllabic rhyme in the end, the word unconditionally. That's got 6 syllables, rhymes with the word free. So you can do stuff like that once you understand the format of writing. It doesn't have to be as simple as like blue, true, new. And here is the chorus.
Better off loving me for me. You would have been better off letting me be free. All you did to try to change me, I made me learn to love to hate you, and now you're probably still I'm wondering if you would have been better off loving me for me. You would have been better off letting me be free. I became the girl you wanted, and someone else is all upon me, and he loves me unconditionally.
Okay, now with verse 2, it's a totally different format than verse 1. Okay, that's why I wanted to show you this. And that works here. So verse 1 was AABB, and verse 2 is AAAA.
Said you really loved me, but acted like you were above me. You knew everything, I was a diamond ring. You never saw me for the real me. You saw me for who I would be. Failed to see my dreams, the beauty of my destiny.
Okay, and when you go to pre-chorus 2, the lyrics are different, and the timing and the rhyme structure. So this is not normally how it goes for pop radio. For pop radio, you normally would have a very similar pre-chorus, but you can do it, and that's something that I like to do. If you're trying to write a hit pop song, then a lot of times you stick to the same lyrics in both pre-choruses. And I have not showed you an example of that here because I wanted to get you with the right bars so you could see a simple, straightforward song and a little more complicated one.
Suddenly I was forced to play wifey, a stay-at-home beauty queen, valedictorian. Then one day I woke up from a bad dream. I packed my shit, ran away, and found myself once again.
Okay, so next you would go into the chorus and the bridge.
Better off loving me for me. You would have been better off letting me be free. All you did to try and change me made me learn to love to hate you, and now you're probably still wondering if you would have been better off loving me for me. You would have been better off letting me be free. I became the girl you wanted, and someone else is all upon me, and he loves me unconditionally.
Now the bridge is actually AABB. The rhyme pattern just sort of does its own thing. It sounds like a totally different song. The melody's different, everything's different, and it builds you back up to go into the chorus.
Fighting, lying, then fighting again. I can't let you control what makes me who I am. Begging, pleading, praying you would try. I gave you too much time, had to say goodbye. Better off loving me for me. You would have been better.
So in this part, the chorus comes back in, and there's a bunch of stuff happening at the end, but it just sort of builds up, and there's more choruses, which is what happens at the end of a pop song, even if it's got an R&B flair. So I hope you guys learned a lot from that. The rhyme format for that last song, it's right here if you need it for later. And next we're going to move on to how to model successful writers. Now we're going to talk about modeling successful writers. Let's say that you were making and selling running shoes. You would study every other shoe company on the market that was competing with you, right? Well, it's the same thing with songwriting. You can learn from these other phenomenal writers. When you think about there being less than probably 20 hit songwriters at any given time that are actually on the charts, that are, the top 100 charting songs, you just see the same writers' names over and over and over. You think, well, what is their formula? They've got a formula that works, and they keep making those hits. So your job is to be a detective and to figure out what it is that makes those hits so that you can learn and stay on top of your game and what's working in the charts. I spent so much time on those two songs so that you would have examples of something a little more straightforward and something a little more creative. Now it's your turn to go find the hit songs that you love over the past decades, print them out and study them, and really look for the similarities between those hit songs so that you can apply it to your writing. The homework I want you to do is called Hit Song Structure. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to create a Word or a Pages document with the lyrics from the top 10 songs in your genre. And I don't mean today. I mean top 10 hit songs over the last, let's just say 5 years. Over the last 5, you can go as far as 10 years. And I want you to break down each section. So when you move it into Word or Pages, I want you to break down. So verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge, chorus out. Label it, or whatever format that song has. I want you to sit there and count out the bars of each section and label them. So a bar is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. You can count them out also like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I find it a lot easier when you're trying to count like 8 to 16 bars to just go through the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, etc. Now you count them out, you label them, okay? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to find the rhyme structure and you're going to label it using underlines, bolds, italics, highlighting, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And once you're done with all 10 of those songs, I want you to print them out and look for the similarities. I want you to study them. This is your homework. And if you're one of those people who work really hard and you're like, I got this, Aria, then fine, go to 20 or 30 songs. But I think 10 that you know are like stayed at the top of the charts for more than a week, that's probably for a lot longer than a week, that are hit pop songs, I want you to use those. And it might be overwhelming. So do the work. This is totally worth it because it's going to teach you what you like, what you don't like, what's similar between these hit songs so that you can create your own hits. I love this quote by Neil Jacobson, who is the president of Geffen Records, and he said this about songwriting. Songwriting is a muscle. It must be worked out. It must be pushed. There's no room for passive creativity where you're just going to wait for the idea. If you get lucky, that works, but more often than not, those type of guys don't have hits again and again. Look at Bruno Mars, for example. He keeps doing it again and again because Bruno has a brilliant creative muscle and he works it out. He thinks about it, he challenges himself, he pushes himself, and he goes again and again and again. That's the kind of artist I want to be around. People that have a prolific sense of creativity. Procrastination. Recording artists are the biggest procrastinators of all time. I mean, we go into this field because you can't do the 9 to 5 and you just don't want to be told what to do. Recording artists are rebels who want to be in charge of their day-to-day tasks and want to be the boss. They're entrepreneurs at heart, but you have a creative mindset, so it's a little different. And what that means is a lot of artists can just go with the flow and be like, you know what, I'm going to write when I'm inspired. I don't need to write today. I'm just not feeling it. But the problem with that way of thinking is that you get to a point where you have no structure in your day and no discipline in your life. How are you going to get to your goals if you don't treat this like a business? There are 2 types of procrastination. There's productive procrastination and destructive procrastination. First, I'm going to tell you about productive because you've probably never heard of it. Research has shown that sometimes procrastination can be good for a creative project. Now, this works for projects that don't have mandatory deadlines, obviously. So you don't have to deliver them in a certain amount of time, and it's not life or death. You don't lose anything important if you wait. And I want you to understand that it's not procrastinating if it's deliberate, if you plan it. So what you do is you set your project aside deliberately for a few days to a few weeks, and you give your mind time to wander, and your brain just has time to relax, and it comes up with incredible ideas that enhance your project. When you know that there's a positive way to do it, it can be so freeing to actually procrastinate because you don't feel guilty about it. And when you have these like massive projects, like an entire album you're trying to record, set time aside because your brain and your body need that break, and it will be really efficient and productive for you to do that even when you're doing nothing. And it sounds counterintuitive, but you need breaks. So take that time to just sort of rejuvenate and just make sure that it's deliberate and you're not just distracting yourself. When to do this? You do this when you're up against a wall and you don't like the way your music is sounding and you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. That's when it's time. That's when you take the time to procrastinate deliberately, okay? So if your album artwork is coming along and you're just not liking it, you just put it aside. Say, I'm going to put it aside. If it's like a Wednesday, say, I'm going to put it aside until Monday morning because I just need a break. And that's a decision. That's a decision that will make your work even better. And that's the point. The point isn't to escape it. The point is to let your mind work and let your subconscious do its job. Next, we have destructive procrastination. We all know what that is. This is when you're avoiding something you know you need to do, and if you don't do it, there's negative consequences. And look, everyone in the world struggles with resistance, and it manifests itself in the form of self-doubt, procrastination, and failure. Resistance happens when you try to break away from something that isn't serving you and run towards something that's going to make your life better. I want you to remember that the more important something is to your soul's evolution, the more resistance you'll feel. So when you feel resistance, it's actually a sign that something's really important. For example, if you really want to learn to play the guitar and you know it would help your songwriting, your brain will start telling yourself, oh, I'm too old for that, or you know what, like it's too hard, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Your brain's just going to tell you a whole bunch of lies to get you to stop. That's just the old brain's way of, like when I say old, I mean the caveman brain. It's the way of coping and protecting you from having to learn something new so that you have the energy to go like get berries and plants to eat or shoot a bear. But you guys, we don't need that now. So when you feel the resistance, be like, oh, that's my caveman brain, and you just need to fight against it. Like another example would be if you're trying to set up a tour in your hometown. You just want to, it's not a tour, you just want to go perform in your hometown. I'm going to perform at all these different places on the strip. And your mind's like, oh, well, what if people don't show up? And gosh, you know, what if I'm not good enough? And your brain starts to go crazy. That's when it's time to say, you know what, this is my resistance talking, and to be aware of it. So it's easier for your brain to like, oh, you know what, I'm just not going to try because then I can't fail. But that's not how you get the success you want. If you don't go after what you were born to do, you will regret it. There's absolutely no other option. It's going to manifest if you don't do it. It's going to manifest in anger, addiction, self-sabotage, or even depression and anxiety, which I know a lot of you face. So if you're depressed, you're anxious, ask yourself, am I working on my music? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? And if the answer is no, you can cure, I mean, I'm not saying cure your depression, but I'm saying you can make yourself feel a lot better when you have action. One of the quotes I love is, action is the antidote to despair. I've always loved that quote since I was like 20 years old. But it's true. You're feeling like crap, go do something, act, and you'll feel a lot better. So this means that even when you're not feeling like it, that's when it's time for you to work even harder so that you can get ahead. I mean, look, we all have a to-do list that's a mile long that we're procrastinating on, and that is normal. But if you're destructively procrastinating, that is bad, because it's like if it's toward your dreams, then you're probably using it as a coping mechanism. And it's because you might have an overall fear of failure or even success. That's one that kind of blows your mind. You're like, what? I am not afraid of success. But you have to ask yourself, am I going to lose friends if I get famous? Am I going to, lose where I live? Am I going to be, those are all those things that are fear of success. But honestly, that's just fear of the unknown, because the excitement you're going to have and the joy of doing what you love and what you were made to do is worth it. Procrastination, it's not laziness. You're not lazy. It's not your desire to avoid work. You don't hate being a recording artist or hate songwriting. It's just a self-defense mechanism. And so I want you to think about that. You're just defending yourself and trying to protect yourself. People don't usually make a deliberate decision to negatively procrastinate. Researchers actually found that it was a coping mechanism for stress so that you can feel good now, right? It's about bigger stuff. It's about worrying about bills or relationships or your future. You're not worried about failing. You're worried about letting them see you fail, right? Because we're so worried about what other people think. You're worried about losing time with the people you love if you do make it, because everything has a trade-off. When you avoid songwriting and you're flipping through your phone and flipping through social media, you're taking a little vacation from stress. It's kind of like when you drink alcohol alone. You do it because you just want to shut down your brain and just avoid the thing that's causing you pain, and you just want to feel good. You want to feel relaxed. But when you avoid something hard and you go toward booze or junk food or social media, or you call a friend, or you check your email, you get a hit of dopamine, right? So it goes straight to your brain. And the more you procrastinate in this way, the more dopamine you get, and it becomes this cycle over and over again, and you get addicted to the dopamine. So you're actually training your brain to procrastinate more because you get a hit. And this is proven. This isn't me making this up. It's crazy. Have you ever felt like obsessed with checking your phone? That's because you're getting a dopamine hit. So you get addicted to that, and from something that you don't want to be doing. The solution is to rewire your brain so that you get dopamine hits from something that serves you, from something that you enjoy. Like you write a song, you feel great, you get a dopamine hit there, and it wires you to want to just keep doing something positive for yourself. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this exercise, and basically I've combined, methods from the top performance coaches in the world, and I've created something called the Procrastination Cure. And it's going to help you when you're just feeling like you don't want to do it. Then do this exercise. And I want you to do it right now. Stop the video if you have to, but I want you to do the exercise and do the work so that you know what it feels like. And also I want you to save this for later. The first thing you have to do is to forgive yourself. Procrastination, it messes with your self-esteem, right? And it makes you feel like you just have no control, you don't trust yourself, it messes with your self-confidence. And you just beat yourself up, so it's this feedback loop, and it continues. Well, I didn't do what I said I'm going to do, so I might as well not do it, and I'm never going to make it, and all of that stuff. So what you need to do first, really, is just genuinely forgive yourself for being human. Forgive yourself, and then move on to the second step, which is to write down all the things you're going to miss out on if you don't do this thing, if you don't write, if you don't, whatever it is, you're procrastinating. So what are you going to miss out on in the next 5 years? In the next 10 years? What are you going to miss out on? What about 20 years? Be as negative as possible during this and imagine your life if you never make it as an artist. I want you to write down, who will you become if you don't make it as an artist? Who will you hurt in the process? Who will you never get to meet? Who will you never become? What will happen to your confidence? What will happen to your relationships? What things will you never have? The idea here is that you want to create so much pain in your brain attached to not doing it that it forces you to do what you're trying to do. Next, after you do that, after you go deep, dark, and scary, I want you to write down all the pleasure you're going to get if you succeed, right? Be as elaborate as possible. What will writing this song do for you in the future? So describe what your life looks like when you follow your dreams. What do you have now? Where do you live? How awesome will your relationships be? And who will you positively impact? And what difference can you make in the world? Now, how will your confidence be? If you need to stop and pause to write all this stuff down, do it. Next, after you do all of that, the trick is you count backwards from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And get started on whatever you need to do immediately, okay? This is gonna interrupt that pattern in the brain and turn on the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive decision-making process. So it's gonna make you jump out of your chair and do it, songwrite, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Now, this part of the brain is activated, the prefrontal cortex, when you make decisions or you work toward a goal. And every single time that you take action when you just don't feel like it, you're teaching your brain that you are in control of your future. Your stress, your anxiety, that doesn't get to control you. You are in control. It actually reduces depression and anxiety, and it makes it easier to take action the next time again and again. So use that counting backwards. This is proven to work. I use it to get out of bed when I don't feel like it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Because your brain takes about 5 seconds to start making excuses and holding you back. So you're trying to get yourself to work before your brain has a chance to hold you back. When I work with the top 1%, I tell them that every single day they need to sit down and write, no matter what. Even if you're too tired, you need to do it because your job is to write hit songs. The most important thing about art is to do the work. Nothing else matters except sitting down every single day and getting it done. Sitting down every single day and trying. Sitting down every single day, looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to at least try because this is my dream. If you want the life that the 1% leads, you want the money, you want the power, you want the access, you want the privilege, then you need to do what the top 1% does, not what the 99% do. So I want you to stop acting like the 99% and treating your dream like a hobby. You need to treat it like it's your full-time job. And would you show up late to your job? Of course not. Would you make excuses like, oh, I can't work today, I'm sick? Yeah, if you want to get fired. Do you keep working at your day job even when you're not in the mood? Of course you do. You find the inner strength that you have within you and you keep going no matter what. It's amazing the lengths we will go to make somebody else happy. But what about ourselves, right? Or just to make them not mad at you. Well, what about yourself? Don't let yourself down because you're making yourself mad and you're reducing confidence every time you let yourself down. You work like your tail off for somebody else, like your boss or for school or even your family, but you owe it to yourself. This is the time right now to take that drive and apply it to your dream. Now you have the tools. You can rewire your brain, and anytime you feel like it. You've got the procrastination cure. Every single time it will work. So even when you don't feel like it, you do that exercise and do whatever it is that this is the next step in your career. Do it. Do the exercise. You have to believe that your dream is worth it. You have to believe that this is your destiny. You have to know that everything you're doing is worth it. You're not wasting your time becoming a better writer. You're not wasting your time fighting for what you believe in. This is your life. You get one shot at it. So you need to do whatever it takes to follow that dream and for you to say, I gave it everything I've got. And if you go for it with that level of passion, you will have your dreams come true. It requires dedication, hard work, and a belief in yourself. But most importantly, it requires sitting down and doing the work. Thank you for being here today with me and working so hard toward your dream. You are worth it, and I believe in you. You've got this. Until next time.